Hey everyone, this is Coach Stacy. I'm here with Allie, and this month we are jumping into my favorite topic, which is goals. Now you're like, wait a minute, we just finished the season, and hello, like I still even have kids right now going to nationals, going to Easterns, going to Westerns. Got it. But also a ton of our kids are done with their season and they're ready to start moving forward. And gymnastics never stops. This is the time where then we go moving forward. But one of the things that people don't do very often when they set goals is actually evaluate how things went before. And when we don't learn from our past, then, what's that quote? We're doomed to repeat the same mistakes. Mm-hmm. So looking back and getting your gymnasts, getting yourself to actually evaluate the past year. How did things go? What went well? We're going to get into the evaluation process, but we want to look back first and evaluate how things went. And one of the reasons that we want to do that is because this is the time where your gymnasts are going to be able to put it all together, right? Where it's like, oh, you asked me to work on my form all year long and I didn't really care. And now I saw that those 2/10 actually really mattered when they added up on every event, when I just had that one form separation on each event and those added up and how that affected me for placing, for qualifying, for reaching my goals. And so this is going to be the time where they're going to be able to put the whole story together. And then as you move forward into drills, which get boring and they're like, who cares? You're going to be able to help them be much more motivated to actually work on the things they need to work on so that this time next year, they're not in the same place. And the only way they're going to make that connection in their head and have their own ownership of it is if they look back and come to those conclusions. And we're going to guide them and help them to do that. So, Coach Allie,
what's up?
How do you like to help your girls evaluate their past year?
Well, I'd like to actually sit them down in the gym and talk through it and make them do it all together because I think that there's a value in doing it in the gym because you're creating an importance around it. And I think there's a value in them being able to communicate with their teammates about it and with you about it as a coach. And so it's really interesting sometimes to learn what they believed helped them most, because it might not always be in line with what you believed helped them most. And so, I like to just sit them down in the gym and evaluate. And like Stacy said, this is the time to do it because like one, they can put it all together, but like two, when you get to like the fall and they start repeating the same stuff, if you don't talk about it, they're going to be like, I don't remember doing that. Whatever. That wasn't a big deal. That wasn't a problem, whatever it was. And you're like, and if you do this evaluation, you could be like, actually, do you remember that like the main thing that you told me you wish you would have done or that you wanted to bring with you into this next season was the fact that you wanted to start thinking about pointing your toes and all your skills at the beginning of season instead of mid-season because it made such a big difference. So just things like that, where it's like, okay, let's sit down now because this is when they're going to, one, remember everything. Two, they're going to still be in the emotions from the season of like, it still feels like, oh, this went really well. And like, I'm disappointed about this. Once you get to the end of summer, they're kind of like, nah, whatever, it happened. And so they care less. I say that in the nicest way because our gymnasts probably wouldn't be high-level gymnasts if they didn't care, right? But about those things. So sitting them down, talking as a group, taking them through some questions, sharing our answers to those questions because it helps. You always learn from others, right? And just taking the time to do that. I'll get into this next part more in a little bit. I want Stacy to kind of talk through some of the questions that you might ask that'll help get their brain flowing. Because just saying like, so how'd it go? They're going to be like, I don't know, fine. Right. like they're teenagers for the most part. Like you gotta like coax it out of them and create conversation for it to become a thing. But you want to use this, this is going to be beneficial too to help them set their goals, because they're going to learn from all of this. And then the next few weeks, we're going to set goals for next season. And what we do today is going to be really important to setting those goals. So that's why I like to take the time here. But Stacy, do you want to talk through maybe some of these questions? And got to shut the door quick.
Good old puppies. So I actually coach entrepreneurs on time management and goals. And so these are the exact same questions that I use in lots of different settings to evaluate. I used to lead software development, and every time we would look back and evaluate a project, these are the questions. So they're not revolutionary questions, but they're helpful in all settings. So you can use this even as you look back for your goals for the team, for maybe if you're a gym owner, for your goals for the gym. And you can use this in your personal life too, but we don't like to evaluate because we think that when we're going to look back, we're going to treat ourselves terribly about how it went. So let's just decide now, for us personally as coaches, and then tell our gymnasts too, the point of this exercise is not to look back and criticize yourself. The point is to learn from the things that both went well and the things that didn't go what you want. There's no judgment here. We're just being really curious about what happened so that we can take it ahead of us. We aren't being really critical about what happened. So let's go in with curiosity and openness to evaluate so that it's not this big, awful thing of like, So I want to start us with what went well. Like, we always want to look back and just look at the problems, but we really want to go, what went well? What did I do well? What competitions went well? What skill upgrades went well? Like, when I look back at the season, when I look back at the whole year, what went well? Maybe it went well that you got your upgrades early on in the fall or late summer so that you had lots and lots of time to be really comfortable with them before competition season went. Or maybe it went well that you were really nervous at the beginning of competition season, but by the end, you were totally dialed in and settled in and it wasn't scary anymore. Like, I don't know what went well. And I would really spend the most time on this. Second question is what didn't go as well as you wanted it to? So what didn't go as well as you wanted it to? Maybe it was the opposite. Maybe it was like, I didn't have my skills until the middle of season, and that was super stressful. Or I had my skills and then I lost them. Or I didn't work on my form. I was coaching one gymnast and, she really was struggling with falling over on her handstand, and she's headed into regionals, like on bars, and she's like falling over on her handstand. And so, we start talking about form and casting and leaning forward in the cast more and all those things. And she's kind of like, yeah, I wish I would have worked more on the drills for my cast handstands and really gotten that form dialed in, because now I'm seeing the result, so like, what didn't go as well as you wanted it to? What do you want to take with you? So like, what did I learn that I want to take with me into the coming year? How am I going to take that with me? And then, I learned that waiting until the last bit to work on my dance and work on my dance expression and work on that. Made me really nervous. So I'm going to start working on that earlier. Or
maybe you never worked on it at all.
Never worked on it at all.
You want to do?
Maybe you're like, oh, my floor score is way lower than all my other scores. It's not keeping up. And I have amazing skills. So it's just the dance. So maybe this year, my goal is going to have to do with my expression and dance. Just saying.
I have seen a lot of that this year. That's why I'm bringing that up.
But what do I want to take with me? And then we're going to focus on this a lot next week, but touch on what do I want to leave behind? Like, there's just so much that it's like, okay, that happened, There's nothing about that that has to define my future. Maybe they had a really rough season. Maybe they didn't qualify, maybe whatever. Leave it in the past. The past doesn't have to define the future, doesn't have to go with us. We don't have to take it forward. And in this moment, we're going to intentionally decide I'm leaving it behind. I've learned from it. I have the lesson that I want to learn from it that I'm going to take with me. And then I'm leaving the rest of it back here in this season. I'm not taking it forward. So what went well? What do you wish would have went better? What are you going to take with you? And what are you going to leave behind? Those are the 4 evaluation questions that I would encourage you to work with your gymnasts.
And the take with you and leave behind are a lot of times the ones that I come back to when you have, I mean, they're kids, they're teenagers, they're going to go to habits, they're going to go to old things, but that's nice for you as a coach to have, because you can be like, hey, remember the one thing that you wanted to bring with you. Remember how you wanted to leave this behind because of what happened. And then that's way more motivating for them because it's coming from them. And now you're not just like this big mean coach telling them what to do, even though you're probably not being mean at all. Right. But like, it's just like a good reminder of like, remember, this is what you told me. And your actions right now are different from that. So just for you as a coach, it's another like really great motivating tool to have for each gymnast. And I know some of you have tons of gymnasts and that can be hard, but that's why I like just the take with you, leave behind. If you have like one for each, sometimes it's a nice, like go back to check up on thing.
Yeah. And one of the things that I would do is, if this is the kind of thing your gym does or that you want to do, is get them to get new journals. So we're starting fresh. This is a new fresh year. We're going to keep this at the beginning. We're going to do this evaluation. It's going to be the first thing in our journal so that it'll always be really easy to come back to throughout the year as you're working on, and that our goals that we're going to work on setting this whole month will be at the beginning. So again, once you're in November, you can be like, hey, go back to the beginning of your journal and remember, what goal did you set? Why did you set it? What were you going to leave behind? You know, we're going to go through all of that this whole month. So 4 questions. What went well? What do you wish would have went better? What do you want to take with you? What do you want to leave behind? And we'll head on into more depth in this next week. So we'll see you there.
Bye.